Well, about 36 hours it took, Razor, for things to feel a little bit better. Does it mean everything is all right in Bruins Nation? I don't know about that, but they're back to NHL 500, and the Boston Bruins win 2 games in a row. 2 games by shutout Saturday in Philadelphia, 3-0. And then Sunday evening back at home, 2-0 over the Seattle Kraken. And I like their white jerseys. I don't know about you. Did you like them from ringside?
I did.
Sharp. Yeah.
Yeah, it is sharp. It's a solid color palette.
Yeah, color scheme. It's good. It looks good. Welcome into Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. The Boston Bruins win their last 2 games, and they did it with some pretty good defense, some pretty good goaltending, some I would say good forechecking and working and getting more guys involved that we need to see get involved. We got a lot to talk about, so we're going to get right to it. But first, we are going to recognize our lead in-pod sponsor, and that is the awesome people over at Fazenda Coffee Roasters. Fazenda Coffee is just the place that you want to go if you're looking for coffee. They got all different blends, including the Morning Brew blend that you can get if you go to fazendacoffee.com/morning brew. And if you go to fazendacoffee.com/morning brew, you can also find the wonderful new hats. Razor and I are wearing both. Razors went from vintage to the updated logo one. We've got them in stock there. Check out fazendacoffee.com/morning brew for coffee, for hats. Hey, there's even a couple of the Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor travel clean canteens. You will love them. fazendacoffee.com/morning brew. Thank you to Fazenda. All right, let's get right to it. Do you want to go? All right, we got to talk about Pastrnak, but let's not go there first. Let's talk about the weekend that was. All right, we can get into that conversation. What's your takeaway from the weekend and the best couple of things that you saw that give you legit encouragement for this team after a very tough, 1-4-1 stretch?
Yeah, well, no question, no penalties. That's just a focus mindset. They flipped the switch. They recognize they're just being ridiculous, and we're not taking penalties anymore. Okay, done. National Hockey League guys can do that if they're good enough, and this Bruins team is good enough, and they did that over the weekend. Of course, they had the puck a lot, so that helps, but they've had the puck in other games, and they took bad penalties, and they just decided this weekend they weren't going to do that. And
bad
then
penalties in the offensive zone, not just bad penalties. Bad penalties in the
Correct.
offensive zone.
Yeah. So again, they just snuffed that out. They just, all right, we're not doing this anymore. The other thing for me is the in zone. The entries in zone were night and day. And there's not a lot of 2-on-1s. There's a lot of good neutral zone. There's a lot of back pressure. There's a lot of good gaps from the defense. All things that we just hadn't seen, that they kind of relaxed on. And whether it was the good teams like Carolina and Dallas picking them apart, or if it was the Philadelphia 1 goal that they gave up, and it was only 1 goal that they gave up on Tuesday night, just 6 days ago. But that was from not picking guys up and leaving slot open. That just didn't happen in the last 120 minutes of hockey. So those are my 2 big ones. Penalties, much more discipline, and in zone and things they can clean up like that's. And I know we're going to get to the individual players that have picked things up just a little bit over 2 days, but I think as a group, those are things that they recognize they need to get better, and they flipped the switch and decided to do it.
To your point about fewer penalties, they were 3 for 3 against Seattle in the previous game, 3 for 3 against Philly.
3 is good.
Yeah. So
one a period, you're doing it.
Right. The previous game against Carolina, they took 5 times. They were shorthanded 5 times. They've been shorthanded 4 or more times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times already this season. So going 3 is awesome. It's really awesome.
Huge difference
in back-to-back games. I couldn't agree with you more about what you like the most. I also like the fact that getting in on the forecheck, they won battles. They supported each other. The word that I've constantly used, disconnected. They were connected on their forecheck, and thereby allowing them to move the puck and not just do a hope to get it back. Oh, shit, we didn't get it back, and now it's going the other way. They get on it, they move, they cycle, they work it. They've done a really good job their last 2 games now of low to high, and then D have been ready to shoot. I thought nobody was more showing that than Charlie McAvoy, who tied a career high with 7 shots on goal in the Kraken game. But I thought Lindholm was good in Philly. I thought some other guys too. Like, they were ready to shoot. And maybe getting all those shot blocked in the first game against the Philadelphia Flyers helped them realize that we got to be better at getting pucks off our sticks quicker. I'm sure. I know they looked at video. I know that they talked about it. I'm sure Coach Montgomery, Jay Leach, etc., went over it. And those to me are very encouraging signs because they changed. They improved in those areas.
They certainly did. And it was a mentality. The mentality changed. And it just started to open more and more up. They could have scored 7 goals tonight against Seattle. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was not a 3-0, 2-0 game in any way whatsoever. I mean, the callback goal, but the scrums and the wraparounds, like when they're really feeling it, that's 7-0, and it wasn't even close.
How about the end of the second period?
That was nuts. Like, that was nuts. Like, you couldn't do that a million times if you tried it a million times again to not score. Like, that's how hard it was
for both teams, actually. Yeah. If you think about it.
No, I know. It was a.
You had a Bruins chance. You had Seattle. Then you had the Bruins again, and the puck was through the crease. I'm trying to remember who everybody was involved in that. Coyle
Marshy had one wraparound.
Yes.
Zach, of course. Zach, just the poor guy.
Yeah.
He's in a bad place. I think Coyle was out in front. Frederic was out in front. And then down at the other end was Yanni Gord.
Yanni Gord, yeah. Yeah.
With the low blocker shot. I don't know who he was in on the 2-on-1 with, but that was the ultimate back-to-back Sunday afternoon game for both teams at that point. Like, the Bruins took it to them in the first, and then it kind of just settled into the back-to-back. Let's get through this.
Yes. The first period was outstanding for the Bruins and instrumental in this victory. As good as Swayman was, just like as good as Jonas Korpisalo was. The Bruins had to come out and have a really good first period. First of all, it's the old eye test thing. They had this great game very good game against Toronto. And then their next game, we all know what they didn't do. They didn't come out and play the right way against Philadelphia. There was no doubt, Razor, when you saw the Bruins come out in this Sunday game, beg your pardon, after beating Philly on Saturday, they outshot Seattle 15-3. Actually, I thought it was more than that. I think they took a shot or 2 away from the Bruins that had been on the board. Regardless, they dominated them. They did stuff. They scored 2 goals. It could have been 3. It turns out that call, by the way, the Zacha offside, was the right call.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out. And
you can't if he had held onto it through the blue line. Yes,
he has to carry it into the zone.
Correct. And you can't make the play. It's not possession if you're making a pass.
Right. I've said this before. I got to say it again. I can't stand replay, especially for offside. I can't. I don't get how. I know. I'm sure you disagree with me on it, but the players make mistakes. The officials can't make mistakes. That's part of the game. But I understand the amount of money online. But it was brought in the rule to be egregious, and we've gone from egregious to minutia, literally. Millimeters and everything. Anyways, again, as I said on Nesson, I'm the old man yelling at the clouds right now, but I'm not in favor of it. All right. Anyways, it's here, so screw you, Billy. But they dominated that first period. They came out, they made a statement. This Seattle team was in Ottawa last night, Razor. They're losing their last couple of games. You can't make them feel good, let them feel good, make them feel like they have a good opportunity. So the Bruins, instrumental. Like, I'm not saying it was the game, because Seattle found a way to stay into it. It was all said and done. But if they didn't have a good first period, then I'm concerned about the Bees. They had a great first period, and I didn't feel concerned. And, you're getting goals from guys that you're like, okay, Brazeau continues to score. You can't not. Now you're like, okay, what, 4 goals in the last 5? You're like, holy smokes! All right,
After getting healthy scratch twice in
right.
3 games, like that's a lot. That's a lot for him. He's never made a team out of camp. He's never really been at this, and he's figured it out, and he's showing why he's gotten to this level after scoring at the other levels, but playing at all the other levels too. He's showing his mental toughness, no question.
No
I mean,
question.
I'm impressed. Really impressed.
Well, he's jumping on pucks a little more. He's getting to the front a teeny bit quicker. Some of it has to do with his teammates as well. I mean, obviously, but he's in those right spots. He is playing to his strengths, and I love it. The hands, we've always said he's got great hands for a giant of a guy, and he's showing it. His deflections and his quick release and stuff the last couple of games has been excellent. So he's involved in the offense. And then Charlie Coyle on Saturday, 20 minutes and 3 seconds against Philly, had a very good game. Didn't score, but had a very good game, very noticeable. And as the hockey gods are want to work, right? He gets not so much rewarded. He doesn't have one going off his ass, but he has another really, really good performance on Sunday evening, including a goal where, in my eyes, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, he forced Joey Daccord to come at him when I'm sure Daccord goalies don't want to make the first move. They want to make the shooters make the first move. Charlie gets the puck on the power play, a beautiful pass from Brad Marchand. He gets it through the defenseman. I believe it was Borgen. And then Charlie gets it, makes a move and really undresses Joey Daccord.
Undressed him. And as a goalie, you can't ever expect a player to think that way in that situation. You're all out to get across post to post off the pass from Marchand, and 96 times out of 100, the guy pounds it as quick as he can and tries to go short side and tries to beat you, and you make a great save, or he scores and it looks like you had no chance. Right. And that's like the goalie play. Instead, Coyle holds on to it, and then Joey hits the post and slides just a little bit, and Coyle lined him up perfectly. So going off of your hockey, Carmen, I agree with you 1,000,000%. He's going to get one go off his back this week. Like, book it.
Right.
Because of the way he played yesterday, and he was even better today. Like the stride, the skating, like it just, again, we can do all the analytics, and we can, and we did this show 2 weeks ago, and we're saying, well, they have to be better. Well, what does that mean? Well, look at what Charlie Coyle played like tonight. That's better. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know how many more meters he skated. I don't know how many more steps he took within his stride to get to but he did more. Like it was obvious. Very, very, very obvious. And that's where that hockey karma starts to build up. And it was a great goal to put them up 2-0.
And he had so many good plays. He touched the puck in areas, whether it was a poke check or a short pass. He was really positionally incredibly well sound in this game, both Saturday, but especially Sunday. To your point about even better game, despite the goal, he's played 21 minutes, 4 shots, which is phenomenal to see that next to his name, 2 hits, 2 blocks, 12 of 14, 12 and 2 in the face-off circle. And so he was the most noticeable forward for me all game. And the Bruins needed it. And I also think it's a good matchup for him. Center matchup for him. They don't have the biggest centers. I know it's not 1 against 1. I know it's not mano and mano, center against center. But my point is, when you're facing off against that other guy, not literally, but figuratively, regularly, he's a tougher match for them. Stevenson's not as big as him. Shane Wright is big, but he's such a young kid. He's still learning. Yanni Gourde, tenacious, pugnacious, whatever you want to call him. But, he's smaller than Charlie. Charlie can impose his will on some of those guys. And he can do it against other players too. But anyways, it was a good matchup for him. And I thought he went out, and I thought, as far as centers go, he was by far the most noticeable guy out there.
Nope. Yeah, he was great. I loved his game, and he he also got his line mates, like he got everyone else around him involved, and that's what he did so well last year, and that's what he's done so well since he got here, and that's why he got his big ticket, and that's why the team probably struggled. When he struggles, it's there's not a lot else. So he again, he doesn't have to score every game, but he has to play with the other stat line that you just rolled out.
Bruins, by the way, cumulatively 38 wins, 22 losses in the face-off circle against Seattle. Pretty good. Johnny Beecher, 7 for 7. Okay. Johnny Beecher's blocking shots too, man. He is blocking shots. He's gotten the message. His dedication, staying in there, that determination, very noticeable. Very, very noticeable. And yes, this line, the Castellic line, has started to not score nearly as much, which we knew would happen, but they are still playing with purpose. Koepke had a really good opportunity later in the game. I mean, they're playing with the kind of purpose that still says you got to keep them in there, and you got to play them 10 to 13 minutes, depending on what the situation in the game is. So good for all of those guys. What you talk about center, and what do you think of Matt Patra the last couple of games? I thought he was good. I thought possession numbers were good. Eye test was good, except for one thing. So I'm going to ask you kind of a double, question. What do you think of his game? He's getting hit a lot.
Yeah,
he's getting hit, and he got hit 3, if not 4 times, pretty freaking hard on Sunday evening, bud. Like, I'm talking hard, heavy duty hits.
No, Larson corked him behind. And it's an eye test.
Didn't Monty address it before the game? I think. When asked about him, or no?
He said he was great in Philly and glad to see him get on the board, but he needs to continue to not get hit, basically.
I thought,
and guys, and it's twofold, right? Like, guys don't get hit because they're really good, and then guys get hit because they put themselves in bad positions because sometimes they don't think about that position. Mm-hmm. And Matty's still trying to figure out the league, right? Like, he's still very young, still, and I think at times he has a little bit, and I think younger players just in general have never really gotten hit at this point, right? Like this generation of really good hockey players never have gotten hit. There's no one headhunting, no one chasing them. Where there's guys in the Zadorov, like there's guys, Larson, they're looking to take a chunk. Mm-hmm. So I think he's still trying to Ristolainen, and they showed the highlight in that game from the end of the preseason, right? Like, we're talking about guys. There's the guys that are hitting him are the ones that hit everybody, and he hasn't completely figured out where those guys are on the ice, and he gets up slow too. Yeah, that's the one thing for me. Like, he got up slow 4 times tonight, and he actually probably got up the quickest when Larson hit him behind the net. But there was 2 other times where, and I'm like, let's go, buddy. Like, pop back up, go. And it's more his demeanor. I think that's just like kind of his character. He gets frustrated with himself, but there's stuff to work on there when it comes to getting hit, because he has to learn, and you don't want him to learn the hard way more than he has.
Right. It's getting to the point, and again, it's still very early in his career, but you can't not say this could be concerning, because all it's going to take is that one. Even if the guy hits him cleanly, but most guys he's going to run into, Razor, are bigger than him, and he could run into some,
Yeah, well, and not this isn't a comparison, but the guy that just popped into my head because I was thinking of the Bruins guy, Andre Cash.
Oh,
right?
Kasha, yeah,
Kasha.
Yeah,
just always had a hit problem.
Right.
Like, he just always had a hit problem. He went to Carolina,
and he had a head problem.
Correct. That's where it's going to go. Like, it's a shoulder, but the next one, the next shoulder or head, and that stuff ends careers. That's what those ones do. And again, I'm not comparing that. I'm just saying that guy's a good example. That was
kind of skated.
Bruins.
Didn't Andre skate kind of forward, hunched over a bit? Yeah, yes. Same way Matty has a distinct style of skating.
It's just
and it's he's not slow. Matt is not slow. He doesn't look like a speed demon, but he gets around fast.
course.
But I think it happens just to be his style, perhaps, that
Mhm.
makes him look a little more. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. If
he's
you're watching on YouTube, Razor and
he's
I
east
just
west.
yes, he did.
He's
Razor and
east
I just
west.
did a synchronized east west head bob. If you're listening, well, you didn't miss much. But we're actually in unison. That worked out pretty good. But I just, you can't not be concerned to say, hey, got to work on this. Anticipation, presentation, recognition, those kind of things for Matt. He's just, if the Bruins are going to have a chance, and when I mean a chance, I mean just to be a really good team, they need that center depth. They need it. And I think that, his numbers are pretty good with him on the ice and everything,
Mhm.
and I think he can and should work his way perhaps into a second unit power play guy for this team. So they need him healthy, Razor.
Yeah, and he'll learn. Like, they can do a lot of video. That's the good thing with something like that, where you don't need to practice more on the ice with that. That's okay. Look at this video. Like, look at where you were on the ice for the 30 seconds. See where you went. Okay, you have to recognize that. So that it is fixable. And that, again, that's the best part. And again, the more licks he takes, the more he's going to be like, ooh, he will do that. I'm sure he took licks in junior the same way and midget hockey the same way, and he figured it out. And he's still trying to figure out the NHL. You just don't want him to have to take too many to figure it out. That's all.
Figuring it out. Was this? I know Charlie started the year out, McAvoy, that is, with a couple of points, first few games, 2 games, right? And it felt like he was looking shot first. But is this just recency bias? But was this kind of the last 2 games in particular, Sunday evening's game, his best game? Or am I looking past, other games that am I already misremembering? I mean, Colorado.
Well, I might misremember the same way you do in the first 2 games, but
But the
certainly,
Florida game was not great, right?
yeah, that stunk for everyone. Maybe Montreal, but that didn't really count. So I'm on board with you, and just as much as anything else was his attitude after the game tonight. He did a really good interview. He did a long interview with everyone, and he kind of
Mhm.
talked more positively.
Mhm.
It was just like his tone, his tenor, um, and it felt different than even just a week ago. And he talked about mentally thinking differently and being positive with the adversity. Like, again, there's a lot of talking points that you can get off Instagram or TikTok or wherever else that we're all doing these days.
Mhm.
But I found it sincere. I found it. I could feel the difference
Okay.
the last couple of days being around him,
I noticed it on the ice. I mean,
and
whatever it
it
is,
felt
it
freer on the ice. Like, it
yeah.
looked freer. It looked like he was just gonna go and play and shoot the puck and get on the power play. And so I agree with I agree that he looked as good as he has and looked as happy as he has.
24 minutes, an assist in this game, 5 attempts, 1 on net. Am I looking at the right stat line? I'm sorry, 7 shots. I screwed that. I was looking at Marchand's line. 7 shots, another 2 attempts, 3 blocks, 2 takeaways, no hits. He hasn't been as physical. That's the next thing to come, because we know that he is a ferocious hitter. We have lauded him for his physicality. We haven't seen that yet, and I think when that comes back, I think we know that hopefully Charlie McAvoy then is back in the full, fully in fold right there. That would be awesome to see. The other thing that I thought, speaking of physical, the other player I want to talk about before we talk about our sponsors, Razor, Trent Frederic. There were some games there when the team was struggling. Didn't notice him that much. Didn't. This weekend, I felt like I noticed him a lot more physically. I know, he got into it with Konechny, Travis Konechny, last minute or so, right, of the game against Philly on Saturday. And I think that was important. I just do. It seems to have lit a fire in him, and then he was much more noticeable. He had 6 attempts in the game, 1 on net. He had a block, he had a giveaway, he won a face it, but I just, again, in his 13 and almost 13 and a half minutes, I just felt like I noticed him more. And, he gets into the fight with Larson after Larson cleanly hits Patra, but he was right there and didn't really give Larson any choice whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
and that's a good thing.
That's fine. That's fine. Larson probably saying, holy shit, what do this is a good hit. But you know what? Freddie's like, no, you're not hitting a guy much smaller than you like that.
Yeah, and Larson had a big cut over his eye, which is why he really didn't square up. Whether that was a puck or a high stick, I don't know what happened to him the last couple of days, but that could have been a big problem for him. Because he had a big one right where Freddie would have punched him right. It would have exploded. Gotcha. So that's why Larson was protecting himself so much. Freddie not giving a chance and just being in the mix, getting on his feet again, getting skating again. And that's the one. Like Freddie needs one off his head, right? Like he's not going to score. The next goal he scores to get him going is not going to be a beauty. It's going to be something ugly. And he's trending in the right way, similar to Charlie Coyle, the same idea that hockey karma starts to pay off, getting in the mix and getting around the area that you need to score. And they did it in both of these games. It's not a coincidence. There's no coincidence in any of these things coming together and then winning 3-0, 3-0. 2-0.
Well, that's all right. You can give him an extra goal if you want.
Yeah. There should have been 9 empty netters. But that's a whole. We're not wasting time on this. Like a team that needs offense and they miss empty netters like that.
I know.
I mean, I know, Beecher. But
Seattle I know, but Seattle needs offense too.
Yeah, they do.
They're struggling. They same amount of goals as the Bruins had coming into this game, but 3 of their games, Razor. I think it was 3 of their games they scored 21 goals. 3 of them, like when you combine 3 huge blowouts they've had this year. And the rest of the games,
worrisome.
15 goals in the other. So it's like 1.6 per game. So now it's 15 goals for Seattle in 10 games. So, and besides those 3 games where they scored a ton of goals, they haven't scored at all. But we're not talking about Seattle anymore. What we are going to talk about right now, though, is Baydog. Razor recently, a couple of days ago, I don't know if you saw this. I'm not sure. But a listener, Morgan Campbell, suggested, could you please use Cooper and Mila as models on YouTube? Well, I don't think our buddy Bart over at Baydog would mind, but I need to make sure, because I replied that it's a good idea, but we'll have to make sure their agents, allow that to happen, right? Mila, she's very low maintenance. Cooper, I'm not so sure. We'll have to wait and see. But they would love to be the models for the Baydog products, because Baydog is super high quality. They are so smart in their designs, but they're also so reasonably priced. They are just phenomenal stuff, whether it's harnesses, leashes, collars. They're all just made beautifully. And these are the type of products that you and your dog love. I mean, they do. And so many different things. And by the way, they have the best dog life jackets on planet Earth. That's what they're really known for. But you look at their college and you look at their college collection and their harnesses and stuff. It is so cool. It's so much fun. And it's this small company, 100% veteran owned. They're bringing it. And, we talked about some stores, Razor, where they are. There's another store, we're told, where they are in West Lebanon, New Hampshire, where a huge Bees fan, Geraldine, she runs it, and it's called the West Lebanon Feed and Supply. So you can go over there if you're in New Hampshire and go to check it out, West Lebanon Feed and Supply, and you can get your Baydog products there. Or you can go to baydog.com and get 15% off when you use the code MBRU, MBREW, to get 15% off your entire order. Check it out. If you've got a dog, trust us. All right. Now, Razor, I had a video of Coop walking around with the Michigan harness on, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe I can put it on there, and it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. So I'm going to get a better one. Mila is this pretty girl, Yeah. Coop's this little boy. Like he's I don't know if he's the runt of the litter, but anyways, but we'll get some pictures, some video. We'll send.
They
them
are
out.
due for a play date too, so we could do a photo shoot.
They are. Let's get them. Let's get them together wearing their Bay Dogs. Okay. So
Yeah.
there's baydog.com. Check it out. And you got Sparx tonight?
I got Sparx tonight. I always got Sparx. Sparx
All right.
is my favorite. And I've said it over and over again for a couple of years now. We're getting into the holiday season. So now it's really go time for Sparx. We're getting into the middle of the hockey season, playoff time, or high school hockey time, more importantly. Anybody out there with a couple of kids in high school hockey, this Sparx machine is an absolute no-brainer. I was away for a couple of days, but I had no stress worrying about my wife getting to a hockey place to sharpen skates because the kids did it themselves. They went down in the basement, they fired up the Sparx machine, and they cranked out their skates. I don't even think about it twice. They get it done. And you can do the same. Visit sparkshockey.com. Use the code BREW50 for $50 off. It's if you know somebody that deals with a few skate sharpenings every week, it's the perfect gift as we get into the season. So again, there's 100,000 people are using this. The teams use it. The Bruins have it in their room. It's a no-brainer. So sparkshockey.com and use the code BREW50.
You will absolutely love it. And
best.
speaking of absolutely loving it, if you're looking to do something to your house that you have now, or let's say you bought a new place and you're looking to refresh and redecorate, revitalize it, check out Graciano Construction, GracianoConstruction.com. Graciano Construction is the contractor Razor who will help you make something special out of your space. They can and will do it all. Bathrooms, kitchens, porch projects, full renovations, small renovations, painting, even garages. Nothing they can't do. They do it with pride, respect, and they are the type of people that you love dealing with. They are, I'm telling you, they make doing home renovations fun. Check out GracianoConstruction.com or call 508-330-7589, and you can discuss with Doug Graciano and his crew what you are looking for. And if you got a dog like Mila or Cooper, maybe they can make a doghouse for you too. I don't know. I'm sure Doug and his brother Andre can do that. And if you have a Sparx hockey machine, he can build in it. He will build you an area if you need to for your Sparx machine. And he'll build an area so you can hang your equipment up and you can make it.
Locker room in the basement.
They do it. He'd put your locker room in the basement. I've seen it, done it, lived it with them. So they have done that. Check out GracianoConstruction.com. You will love dealing with them. Speaking of love, I got a couple of other things on this Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Love the goaltending. Jonas Corposalo comes in. I thought that was absolutely his cleanest performance against Philadelphia. The way he presented himself, I felt he had less extra movement to his game. So that's my former forward eye perspective. Give me a goaltender perspective.
No, I was going to go more like off the ice. Like that's a big one.
Okay.
That's a big game to go to be able to hold off and not go back to Jeremy Swayman when you feel like you need it. You're 4-6. Oh, we go into Philly and we don't play good, or our goalie doesn't. That was big for him mentally, and I think big for the team and the coaches to be like, you know what, we're gonna stick with this plan. We're gonna put him in and see what happens. And he pitches a shutout, big confidence for everyone. So I would agree. He stayed inside of his net a little bit better. He was nice and controlled. He was he didn't give up any rebounds, nothing extra. But for me, just like being in the, cruising around in the afternoon, I'm like, this is a tough start. Like this you could easily give up too early, and now everyone's scrambling, but he didn't. And so yeah, in a big way that was big for a lot of reasons, because now you're like, I can put this guy in and he can handle it.
Not a ton of shots, right? What was it, about 20?
I think he ended up with 22.
22,
right?
right?
Like
a couple of primetime ones, a couple of high danger.
In the second period, the Bruins weren't good at the end of the second, right?
They weren't. They were very good. They were solid in the first.
Yeah.
They were good. They were good in the first.
Yeah, 100% they were good.
Not great in the second, really good in the third again.
Yeah, and so Corpus, he made really good saves when it was 1-0. And it was so yeah. And again, all those things I was just like a huge start for him, because that was a pressure start
coming off of that debacle in Carolina. Yeah. All right, and then Swayman gets the shutout against Seattle, and then you guys have your goalie union bromance after the game. That was fun. Did you have a good time with that?
Yeah, I mean, I was taking advantage of him getting a shutout and knew he'd be in a happy mood. The last time we were kind of hanging out was in the corner in Carolina. Not quite as happy, again, but he gets it. Listen, he gets it. The kid gets it. That's why they signed him for his deal. He completely recognizes the moments and he completely recognizes what's on his shoulders. He knew that it wasn't his fault, but it's also his fault in Carolina, right? Like that's the starting goalie.
Right.
Like, yeah, you give up 6 and you suck, but you might, I'll be better. I'm going to work. And I think Korpisalo probably lit a fire in his ass too. Like, all right, I'm not going to let this guy do it,
Right.
and I'm not like that. There's that competitiveness there, and it was a hard game. Like to only have 3 shots and
In
basically
that
no
first period,
shots
yeah.
the entire
Yeah.
first, and it's 2-0, 3-0, and then the goal gets called back. Like 3-0, you're cruising. 3-0,
Mhm.
you feel great. 2-0, you never really settle in because you're expecting one to go in and then the next one to go in. And so I thought it was again kind of the same idea with Korpisalo, a pressure spot where he needed to show his goods and knows he's going to Toronto in a couple days, that he needed to have a good one, and he did.
All right, let's finish up with what happened with David Pastrnak in the third
Yeah.
period. As we wrap up this morning brew with Jaffe and Razor, we, I wanted to make sure we had a good couple of minutes on this just to get to, because that's, it's the thing that a lot of people are talking about. He plays the first 2 periods. So in case you haven't seen the game, folks, I'll give you a quick summary. Bruins are up 2-0, holding on, whatever. It's the end of the second period. They're on the power play. It was about 40 something, 50 seconds left or so. He skates the puck up. He's kind of the last guy trying to bring it in, tries to get past 1 or 2 players, has the puck stripped, and boom, they go back the other way. They being Seattle go back the other way. All right. Bruins get out of the period though, 2-0. Nothing. Third period, David Pastrnak's out on the bench, all that stuff, and then doesn't play. And at first, there was some stuff going on, and first didn't notice it right away. But about 6-7 minutes in, all of a sudden, we're like, I said to Barry, in fact, I said, Pastor out there, and then we see him on the bench. Yeah, he's out there and everything. And then we're at the 8-9 minute mark, hasn't played, 10-minute mark, hasn't played. And now it becomes official. David Pastrnak's out there. During the TV timeout, he came out at one point, the under 10 break, and he skated a little bit. It looked kind of slow, not gingerly, but you know what I mean? It was slow and a little stretch and whatever. So then you're saying, could he be injured? Could it be a tweak that he just wanted to see? But then you're saying, well, why would he even be out there unless he said, no, I want to be there with the team? Regardless, we find out at the end of the game, fast forward many minutes later, and asked about it. Jim Montgomery says, coach's decision. And that's it. There's a coach. He said to Brick and the Nesson post-game interview, and then he did it at the podium. Coach's decision. That's all I'm going to talk about it. So David Pastrnak was benched for the third period. That's what it comes down to. Is it as simple to say, in your opinion, because this is mine, that David's turnover late in the second period, which led to really good chance for Seattle, was kind of just I'd say, I guess, the final straw, in meaning just, David's put up points. There's no doubt about it. But I said this to you. I've said it to Barry. We've talked about it. There's still so much more that he can do. He hasn't looked like the dominant David Pastrnak that we've seen before. And it hasn't been nearly good enough. He's been one of those main players, Razor, the main core players that have not elevated or had not elevated their game to the level that it needed. And I just think, again, with not knowing anything else, if there was anything else there, I think this was a culmination of, hey, you can't do this at that time of the game. Situational, especially like that. And I guarantee you there's been talk about it before between coaches and player, et cetera. That's my take on it. And I think Jim Montgomery finally said, listen, I'm gonna do what I've preached, is that everybody's gonna have to be held accountable for their mistakes. And eventually, accountability, ice time, is the biggest thing you can do to a player.
And it just lined up so well for him to do that the Bruins were having a good game. They were up 2 goals. They weren't down 2 goals where you need to, okay, I got to go with my guy here. Like, it's still the NHL. There's some nights where even if the guy isn't going, you can't set an example, right? Like, you have a Hall of Fame player. You have to that's just the way. That's how the NHL works. You have to run them. Tonight's situation kind of lined up pretty well for the coaches, and we've talked about this many times where the coaches use wins. They'll win. The Bruins will win, and the coaches will really be able to dig into the video, and they'll really be able to set examples of guys because they've won, and they have a little bit of cushion there. Coaches love a little cushion, and I think Montgomery had that cushion tonight. I think he's been dealing with putting guys in and out of the lineup that maybe deserved to not come out, but he had to. Or guys that did deserve to come out and they needed to come out. And now I can use David as a period example, just like I used Brad Marchand as an example of turning the puck over a couple of weeks ago. The more I can do that early in the season, this is coach thing. The more I can do this early in the season, the more it buys me credit later in the season with everybody else. And I think tonight's they recognize that as a coaching staff. Jim Montgomery recognized it. He could do it tonight, probably get away with it, and probably earn a lot of credit down the line. And he knows, most importantly, folks, this is the big one. He knows he can do it with his guys. He knows he's done it. He called David Pastrnak after Game 6. He called him out in the Stanley Cup playoffs against the Toronto Maple Leafs. He knows they have this relationship. He knows he can do this, and I'm sure David's not happy, but he respects him and he likes him, and they'll deal with it and say the right things and just move on. It is a complete move on situation already.
Yeah. And, David will be asked about it Monday's practice.
Yeah.
I would assume.
And he's going to have a great mustache on, and he's going to he's going to do his David thing. And
right. And again, I think this is a culmination of that. Listen, man, this can't go on. It can't go like this. We need more. I know it's there. And David has not been nearly as he hasn't been dominant yet. We haven't seen it yet. And I think Jim Montgomery's just felt like I can't wait any longer. And, listen, we know he's going to turn the puck over give it away because these star players have the puck on their stick more than others. That's a given. But it's also situational. It's respecting. It's understanding what time of the game it is. The eye test, yeah, and where you're at, and all that stuff. And if Seattle had scored there, that would have been. Seattle found themselves, in the game. Then David right now is tied for 4th in the league in most giveaways. Okay. Again, you could look at a lot of star players by the end of the year, and it's going to be mostly high-level players that are doing
I think Sid's first, right? So.
No, actually, Dougie Hamilton is first right
now.
There
you go. Well, let's not get into it.
Nathan McKinnon is number 3. Just to give you an idea, okay? Yeah. I'm going to read you this list. You'll have Dougie Hamilton, number 1 with 29. Erik Karlsson, how's that deal going? 26. Nathan McKinnon from Colorado at 25. And then you've got Pastrnak and Mikhail Sergachev with 23 each. So, okay, it's just part of the gig when you've got the puck on your stick a lot. But where are you on the ice? What point of the game are you at? And I also think that they need more from David. They do. He's your big guy. You need more. And therefore, you know what? To your point, Razor, this was the opportunity to say, everybody saw what just happened right here. And we've been telling not just David, but everybody, we can't turn the puck over in these areas. We can't do that. And he did it. And that's what I think. Could it be something else, Razor? Obviously, I don't know. But just taking what information I have from watching and seeing, this is what I think. You agree with that? I
think it's that simple. I think it really is simple. It just like Brad turning the puck over and it going down and being a goal, and they yell at each other on the bench. It's simple. I don't think there's much nuance, and that's the good thing. That's the beauty of it, and that again holds everybody else to a certain level that isn't in every organization in the National Hockey League, and that's what everyone should be happy about here in Bruins Nation listening, that they can handle it. And I'm sure David will do it and handle it, and it'll be nothing but flowers tomorrow.
Right. Here's the some, I guess irony might be the right term. He played 14-21. He had 9 shot attempts, 7 of them on net. He had 2 giveaways in the game. So here he has 7 shots on goal.
And 3 of them should have went in. Like, he ripped that one in the second period that ran, like, somehow hit the Cord's neck and went out of play. But, like, that was labeled.
And he also had a heavy-duty one on the power play in the first period, too, a one-timer as well. So he was moving. He was kind of grooving. But, he hasn't been as physical as we saw last year. He hasn't been nearly as owning the puck as we've seen, and yes, the good news is he's putting up points. Or I guess I don't want to say the bad news is putting up points, but you know what I mean? He's getting his points, but it's not the same way. He is too special of a player that a little more responsibility, a little more determination will take it a long way for this team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, if anything else comes out at practice or not. But Montgomery, again, was very honest with Brick and with the media, saying coach's decision, and very much that's all I'm going to talk about it. So I'll let it play out. All right. That'll wrap up this morning brew with Jaffe and Razor. Razor's on his way to Toronto for Tuesday's game against the Leafs, which should be an awful lot of fun. Toronto should be all fired up. Toronto, I believe, lost in overtime tonight to the Minnesota Wild. So they've been up and down. They lost.
That's a tough trip too, by the way, folks. Like, coming back from Minnesota tonight, that's annoying.
It is. And they had also been in St. Louis the day before. They lost in Craig Berube's return to St. Louis. They lost her. So this team, the Leafs have been up and down, but we'll see what they bring when they come back on Tuesday night. So Razor, with you going to Toronto, that means instead of us doing a post-game morning brew with Jaffe and Razor, we will do a Wednesday morning. We are scheduled to do it. We will we'll keep you updated. In the meantime, your Boston Bruins have won the last couple of games. They're now back to 500. Let's see what happens. Coming up, another busy week. Toronto on Tuesday, and then Calgary on Thursday back home, and then Saturday against the Ottawa Senators. A lot of hockey still coming up. Let's see if the Bruins can keep it up. It was a fun weekend for the Bruins. It feels a bit better. Let's see if they can keep it going. And you know what? Keep drinking your coffee and enjoy.